even if you're in the food business and you're passionate about food, it's a business in the end. So you have to really think about that, and you have to run it like a business. Today, we're going to talk about how I took a hobby that my wife and I had and turned it into a small business. And here I have Soma, who's going to be asking some questions about my business.
Well, first, why don't we start with the first question? What was the business or the product?
So the business was a gourmet sauce company.
Gourmet sauce company.
Inspired by travel destinations.
Okay. What was inspired by it?
So a lot of the ingredients and the themes that we had, so we had like a teriyaki sauce that was inspired by Japan. We had some that was like Bora Bora, which is a tamarind and date sauce. We had another one that was Mayabe, which was a Thai kind of sauce with very interesting flavors. And then we had one that was south of the border that was kind of like Mexican kind of sauce. And so then we had a lot of fun doing that.
Okay, so it was like a themed gourmet sauce company. That is
right.
Amazing. And what was the name of the company?
It was called Culinary Twist.
Culinary Twist.
Yep.
And towards the peak of the business, what were some of the accomplishments that you and your wife had?
Well, some of the accomplishments is that we were in the stores across the country, like a lot of the Whole Foods stores and many other stores. We're in over like 400 or 500 stores in the U.S. and in Canada as well. So.
Is that still considered a small business?
Well, it was a small business because in terms of the volume, and then the number of employees, but yeah.
I mean, that's quite a wide reach.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And we're going to talk about kind of how you get to that and how it was only my wife and I, so Lynn and I that were doing that was running that business.
You didn't have any other employees?
No.
Wow,
and
okay.
Because we didn't have to.
Okay.
I'm going to be very secretive.
All right, I'll have to ask the questions to get the answers. Okay, and so you were in 400 or 500 grocery stores across the country.
Yeah.
I think you guys were featured in the New York Times?
Yeah, that's right. Lynn was featured in the New York Times because we were the first one to actually put a QR code on our gourmet sauce bottle.
Okay, so set the scene for us. When were you guys kind of like at the peak of your career with this product, as well as like when was that New York Times article?
So the New York Times article was in 2011, I believe.
Okay.
And then we were not quite at the peak yet, so we were in some stores, mainly on the West Coast, and then so that QR code was just a cross promotion basically for a company that we were working with, and to help people really have a better understanding of our sauces. We really thought that this would help customers and consumers understand, hey, this is how I can use this Mayabe sauce or this Bora Bora sauce.
Yeah,
and
amazing.
how I can cook with it, yeah.
Okay, and so that wasn't even the peak of 2011. No. It continued. Until when?
Until 2015, 16.
Okay, so you had this company for a while.
Yeah, I think we ran the company for about 5 or 6 years.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And what would you say was the peak?
So the peak was maybe a year before that, like 2014, and it basically kind of stabilized at a certain level, and it was very hard to kind of break through and grow more sales and all that.
Okay, so there was kind of like this plateau period almost, like you reached this level of success, but then breaking that was hard.
Yes.
Got it.
And the reason is because you had to break habits. You had people are very they're creatures of habits, so they like a certain sauce. They always go for this particular sauce, and then now we're bringing something new, and we have to explain to people this. This is like a Thai-inspired sauce. I say, well, okay, what's Thailand?
What does that mean? Yeah. I see. Okay, and so did you know this bottleneck or this plateau before you started, or was it something you discovered along the way?
This is something we discovered along the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then once you kind of reached that point, do you feel like that was industry-based, or do you feel like that's in all industries? People are just creatures of habit.
I think there are some industries that there's a little bit more openness, I think, in trying things. In the food industry, I would say the sauces is very tight in terms of...
Right, because if you like a flavor, you want that guaranteed flavor?
Yeah.
I see.
Just think about ketchup.
It's true. I still get Heinz.
You know, like every time I try another brand of ketchup, I say, nah, it's not as good as Heinz. I go back to Heinz.
Yeah.
I'll drive a mile to get Heinz bottle.
That is true.
You know.
I'm like that about my pickles.
Mm-hmm,
I like Bubby's pickles, and that's it.
Yeah. So the only real one that may be different is like hot sauce. Maybe that people are more inclined to try different things and.
Right, because you're not relying on hot sauce for the flavor base or the profile of the dish. It's an additional kind of fun thing.
Exactly.
I see.
Assuming that you like burning mouth as fun.
Guilty. Okay, so that was kind of like the bottleneck that you encountered. But let's rewind for a second. Let's start back to the beginning of the story. How did you decide to start a gourmet sauce company?
Prior to Culinary Twist, we had another business which was called Tuesday Night Supper Club. ZS Kitchen was another name for it, and we basically cooked for families, and they would come to our house every Tuesday, and then they would buy like basically dinner for their family. So it was a balanced dinner with vegetables and salads and protein and all that kind of stuff.
Meal prep for back then, right?
Exactly. So this was actually before the meal prep.
Yeah, before, what do they have now? Factor and what's the other stuff? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, but these were hot meals.
Yeah.
And then people would just come and pick them at our house.
Okay, and so then how did that develop into the gourmet sauce company?
Well, when something goes well and you feel like there's more customers, there's more people that are interested, and then you realize that your kitchen is too small. And then Lynn was doing a lot of the cooking, so she was doing like a shopping day, like a whole day that was just shopping, doing grocery shopping, another day doing chopping, and then
chopping.
Yeah, chopping, and then cooking.
Wow.
So it was incredible.
Like a whole week's worth of preparation for that Tuesday night.
Yeah, because when I started with Lynn, but then I had to go and do some work.
Yeah.
And then I found another project. So Lynn was kind of stuck to do the cooking at that point. So she was by herself. So I feel very bad. That's why I'm laughing. And then. But this was a fun time, but it just grew. Like there was a lot of customer, and how do we scale that business? How do we make satisfy more customers? How do we prepare more meals? All that.
So, what were the profit margins like with Tuesday Night Supper Club?
I think it was around like 30%.
Is that typical for that industry, or is that good, bad?
The net margin. I think it's about typical. But for us, I think if you open a real restaurant and stuff like that, and with staff, it might be a little bit be different. Yeah.
So now, when you were looking at your options of scaling, what were they?
Option of scaling was to actually open up a restaurant or a facility that had like a commercial kitchen, and have staff and people come by to get their meals. But I didn't like that option.
Why?
Because I wanted to be free. And I wanted to travel.
Yeah, okay, you had other goals, and
I didn't want to be stuck in one location, and it's the restaurant business is a very hard business to get started, so very long hours.
Well, also, it's almost like reversed hours. It's like when you would want to have time off, you can't, because that's when people come to the restaurant, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I see. Okay, so it wasn't like a style match. What about the profit margins? How did it look when you ran the numbers? For having a restaurant or a facility. So
the restaurant and facility, then we kind of looked around, but we really didn't like I didn't like the option. Lynn really didn't feel like working harder than this. So the other option is like, how do I stay free? How can we make it more passive? How can we travel and still run the business and make money? So
you wanted the freedom, and you wanted it to be passive.
Yeah.
Which was?
So this is when the sauce company got started. So we looked at some of the sauces we were using when we did the Tuesday Night Supper Club, and we said, okay, well, let's do this. When we did this Thai dish, we used this sauce. Let's package that. What would it take to package that?
Okay.
Right? Sounds simple.
And
then even then, when you do this, like there's two routes that people normally take. One of them is kind of like the stay at home, again, cooking at home, but at least you're cooking only the sauce. bottling it at home, and then going to the farmer's market route.
Okay.
So you package it, blah, blah, blah. You go to the farmer's market, and then you sell the bottle right there in the farmer's market.
Direct to customer.
Direct to customer.
Okay.
So that's one way of doing it. Again, I didn't like that because...
Again, you're tied down.
I tied down.
Yeah.
So now I have to drive. Now I have to get that drive and go to these
Sunday
places.
morning, you're going to the farmer's market.
You get it.
Can't spend time with your family.
Absolutely. So didn't want that.
Then what's the other option?
So I want to sell at the store. So how do I sell at the store? And how do I not cook in my kitchen?
Right. Okay. Wow. Okay. So you just, you wanted to kind of remove yourself from that equation.
So every business I start, I always imagine, let's say it goes big. I want to make sure that it can scale. So I always set it on the tracks for scaling. And if it doesn't scale, then there's no point in me doing that. Like
right.
I'm not there to do a hobby. I'm there to run a business and grow a business.
Right.
So how do I scale a business? How do I set the business so that it can scale? And so we had to figure out a manufacturer, a company that's going to actually manufacture the sauce for us. And it took me a long time to figure out that this name was called co-packer.
I have never even heard of that term before.
But if you don't know that key terminology,
how do you find it?
And you go on Google, it's very hard. Manufacturer for sauces and all that.
So, So what was your search process like? What was all that research like?
Well, I read a lot about all of that and tried to figure out like what's this a co-packer, and then talk to a few different co-packers, and then they would ask me questions. I say, okay, well, is it hot filled? Is it in a glass bottle or a pouch? Is it like what kind of size container?
I didn't even think about the temperature of the sauce itself.
Right. So all of that, and it's not because they don't want necessarily to deal with you, is that they're a manufacturing facility and they have a certain number of equipments.
Right.
So if you want to fill in these big jugs, then I don't have the equipment for that. If you want to fill in these pouches, well, I don't have a pouch thing.
So they're very niche in what they do.
They're very niche in what they do.
Okay.
If you want so sometimes the equipment, so it's very dependent on the equipment that they have.
I see.
Yeah.
So then, did you just like go to the library and get sauce books for dummies or something like?
So there was something like that, but it was more geared towards like the farmers market kind of road.
Okay.
How do you do like a food business?
Okay.
And but there was really no books that I saw that explained that.
Where did you get your information from?
I basically called the co-packers and I say, hey, I want to do this sauce. I say, okay, so let's.
You were just cold calling.
Yeah.
Cold calling.
So what are you doing? This is the information that you need. You need to talk to a food scientist.
A food scientist? Wait, that's a real thing?
Yeah, it's a real thing. Yeah. So we talked to food scientists.
Sounds like a pretend job.
Yeah.
I'm a food scientist.
But it's pretty important because like the expiration date, for example, on the bottle is something that is the food scientist is going to look at it and is going to say, okay, well, this is what the acidity, the pH level of the sauce is. This is the type of ingredients that are in there. Therefore, it can the shelf life is 12 months or 24 months or something like that.
Okay, so you eventually got your manufacturer.
Yes.
You got your co-packer.
Yes. There was a lot more than that. But the thing is that, so when you talk to these people, then these people are manufacturers. So they say, okay, well, send me the BPR. And I said, what the heck is a BPR?
Yeah, what is that?
It's just a batch process record. So it basically says, this is how you do the recipe. It's really, and all the recipes are in weights. So you don't say, oh, you put like 3 cups of soy sauce. You don't put like, 75 garlic cloves. You don't count like that. They say you're gonna put, 5 kilograms of garlic. You're gonna put this much. So all the recipes that I had to kind of convert it into this BPR. Define what the process was for making the sauce, converting that into their equipment also.
Okay, this was a huge learning curve.
Yeah, it was absolutely a huge
it's like a different
curve.
language, basically.
Huge learning curve. So that's the manufacturing piece of it. And then, you know me, so I had I had a massive Excel spreadsheet because so now it's very different. Now I want to know the cost of that product. What is the cost of that sauce? So I had a spreadsheet saying, okay, well, if I do this, if I manage the ingredients, this is the cost per ingredients, this is the recipe, this is the cost of the container, the bottle, the label, and this is my cost. And then calculate kind of like how much do I sell to the consumer,
Yeah.
what's the margin.
So then how did you decide on your pricing?
So that's very interesting also, because then you have to decide what is your market, who's your consumer.
Who would it be?
Exactly. So you could do like if you would just do like a regular sauce, if you do like a ketchup or a kind of barbecue sauce,
Yeah.
You can just put it in a regular, very standard bottle.
Okay.
So you could, which is called like a 12-ounce ring neck, they call it, which
Okay.
is just like a regular bottle.
Yep.
You see that all the time, and but we didn't want to be a regular bottle. We wanted to be a gourmet sauce company. We had all natural ingredients. That was just before like the whole organic crave
Yeah.
happened. And then, can you imagine? So that was a long time ago.
Yeah, what
And
were
then,
we eating before?
That's right. And then, so there was really a lot of marketing decisions there into, okay, now I have to do
The kind of person you wanted.
what kind of bottle I want, what kind of label is going to really attract the right consumer
Yeah.
for us,
Yeah.
so that they can buy our sauce. And the price point
Okay.
would be corresponding to that.
So what was the price per bottle?
So we went into a 10-ounce glass jar that was much more like, it was much more
narrow. Yeah.
and a little bit taller, and it looked more sophisticated. And then in terms of the label, we chose, as you saw in the little package there, it was more like travel, like old travel posters look. That's kind of what we were going for.
I'm trying to think of the word for that. Like a 50s postcard
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Postcard, but posters, you know, you would go to,
Yeah.
go to St. Moritz,
Yes,
and go to,
yes.
you know, Kyoto and all that
Yeah,
kind of stuff. So
I know
that's-
what you're talking
Yeah.
about in my head.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, but we call that like vintage travel posters.
Vintage travel posters.
Yeah. So then we have to find a graphic artist for that, and we actually found someone that was doing these kinds of posters for, what's that clothing company, like North
Face?
North Face, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
They were doing
Yeah,
work for North Face.
I think I might have I think it's the right company. Yeah, North Face, and she was doing the
Wow.
posters for the in stores and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
How,
So-
I mean, Thumbtack and Upwork and Fiverr didn't exist back
No,
then.
that's
So
right.
how did you find somebody?
I have no idea. Lynn found her.
Again, was it just cold calling, research?
Yes, or so a lot of people, they know each other. So you talk to
so
the
once
food scientist.
Okay.
You talk to the
Yeah.
co-packer. I mean, we spend a whole day with a co-packer
Networking then.
talking about strategies and okay, how do
Okay.
we find the label and stuff.
Right.
Oh, well, I have like
Yeah.
2 people that do labels for other people.
I see.
So it's a lot about phone
Okay.
calls and networking and.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're just figuring it out as you're going, really.
Yeah.
And so, big picture, how long was the process from the initial idea of it going to be a sauce to, okay, this product is ready?
Product is ready. I would say a year and a half. A year and a half. Yeah.
And what made you not give up in the meantime?
It was great. I mean, it was a great industry.
It was exciting?
Everybody we met was happy. Everybody we went because at the beginning, Lynn and I would actually go to the grocery store
Yeah.
and say, hey, you know, we have these sauces and stuff like that. Would you be willing to?
You guys went
Oh
in
yeah,
person
at the beginning, yeah.
to the grocery stores
yeah,
and
yeah.
asked them to put it on the shelves.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then Whole Foods was like that. I mean, they had like a person, I forget what it's called, like a team leader or something like that. And then these team leaders had the ability to bring in local products.
They had reserved shelf space for
That's right.
local
They had
products.
the authority. They had the authority as a team leader,
Oh.
a category leader to say,
Okay.
you present to them and they say, okay, yeah, we'll bring it to your store.
Do you think that's the same as today?
I think it's the same as today, yeah.
I had no idea you can just walk into waltz into a store with your product.
Yeah. And you present to them and say, this is what it's, and they say, okay.
To me, that's the equivalent of being as absurd as like, I want to be in a movie, so I'm just going to walk into Lionsgate's like
Yeah.
studio and be like, I'm ready to be in a movie.
It gets even better than that because we went to some stores in the Bay Area. I remember one in Palo Alto. And we went to the store. We brought a case of each product.
Yeah.
A case of each product, and then we said, hey, you know, oh, I like those sauces and stuff like that. So, are you interested? Like we would be willing to give you like some sample products, see if the consumer likes them, and if they go through and say, yeah, okay, sure, yeah, just put them on the shelf, put them here. And then when they, but I said, they're not in your system. He said, yeah, it doesn't matter. What's going to happen is that it's going to go through our system. It's going to be flagged as a no price item. And then we'll see what the sales are. And then we'll call us back, and then we'll see how the sales are going.
So is that how you set the prices, or did you set the prices in your head already? Or like
always, you know me.
Yeah, you're not a type B kind of person.
Everything is planned.
Right. So
yeah.
What's the price?
So the price. That's a big discussion with the co-packers, because you can choose different ingredients. On the Bora Bora sauce, we were specific about the kind of dates we wanted.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a lot of dates out there, and you have to be very specific about, because the right texture, fiber, sugar content, and all that kind of stuff. So that's just one example. And then the dates that we chose were more expensive than the typical dates that you see in the store, like the Medjool or something.
But you did that on purpose, knowing the client you were going for.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah. And so the discussion of pricing and cost and margin, this is very, there's a lot of this. That's why I had to have that spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Because, well, if I change this ingredient to this ingredient, the cost is going to change.
Significantly.
Yeah. And I had also planned in my spreadsheet, was also planning the cost of the containers, the cap, the label, as well as the distribution and the broker.
Something I remember you mentioning when I first heard about your sauce company was you didn't realize how much a glass bottle would impact your shipping expense.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
You said that was probably something that ate up the most amount of your margin.
Yeah, especially when we tried to sell, for example, on Amazon, right? And
then you tried to sell on Amazon?
Yeah, we had like lots of products on Amazon, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now what was the price that you set for the bottle?
I think it was around like $6.95 or something, just under $7.
$7?
Yeah.
And then do you remember what the margin was like on it?
Don't really, but I think it was probably around like 30%. And
okay, so you managed to keep the margin even as you scaled.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
And then how did you get into 500 grocery stores when it was just Lynn and you part-time?
Yeah. So there was, we did a lot of food shows. So that means, going and presenting the product and trying to connect with potential like store chains or distributor or brokers. We also talk to distributors. So a distributor is basically a company that you get them the product and then they go and distribute it. So they have a whole bunch of grocery stores that they are connected with. And then they're going to go and sell your product. So instead of us having to go to every single store, then they would go and say, hey, but we have a new product this month, and then we have a new promotion. If you want to try it, blah blah blah. And then they would.
What was their cut for that?
Their cut was like 10%.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I guess they probably optimized it so much that if they have a bunch of products at 10%, it makes sense for them.
Exactly.
I see. Okay, so now instead of you walking into the grocery store yourself, you had someone else presenting it. They had relationships. And then was one of the distributors what led to 500 grocery stores?
So that's one aspect of it. So and then after
food shows, distributor.
Yeah. Then we wanted to be in Whole Foods, so we started kind of like really focusing on Whole Foods.
Well, I mean that makes sense.
At the regional level and national level, all that kind of stuff.
Because if I'm going to try something new, the one place I'm going to go is Whole Foods, because I'll go to Whole Foods sometimes not to get groceries, but to try something new, to just look and see what's on the shelves.
So we had to kind of work our way up the chain and then figure out how to get there.
How did you do that?
There's a lot of talking, and it's again, people are pretty friendly, but it's also, the people they want to make sure they have control. They have they want to they have control of what gets in the store or not when you're at the regional level.
Did you ever turn down an offer?
Not that I know of, no.
Am I remembering this? Did Trader Joe's ask you to white label your product?
So we had an opportunity to potentially white label the product with Trader Joe's, and we were trying to connect with them and come up with a deal, but that never happened.
Didn't work. And would you have been open to it or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Still today, I have the recipes. If
Trader Joe's, if you're watching.
Mr. Joe, if you're still trading.
Okay, so then you got to this point after the distributions, after the food shows and all the hard work, you got to a place, you were in Whole Foods, you were in 500 stores. What made you decide to close the company a year later?
So yeah, you kind of hit. First of all, you hit kind of like a ceiling at one point. Sometimes like a plateau, and is just. I was hoping that there would be some kind of momentum, so people would go and buy the product, and then they would love it so much that next week or next month they would buy it again.
Tell their friends, share
exactly.
it. Yeah.
But it didn't happen like that, and that. So basically, every time that the sales were high in a store is because we did an in-store demo, but the in-store demo cost money, so we were. So basically, all the bottles we sold, we didn't make a profit on it because we had to pay someone to do the in-store demo.
So that's what it is when I go to like Costco or Whole Foods and I get like free little samples.
Yeah.
It's a
So these are the in-store demos.
Right. Okay, so then it costed you to get those increase in sales.
Mm-hmm.
And at what point did you decide to throw in the towel? Because that is a difficult decision to make.
So yeah, so then we, Lynn and I, we sat down and we said, okay, well, what's the plan here? Lynn had like a vision board, and you're gonna have to interview. You're gonna have to interview her on that one. No. But she had a vision board, and she came to me and stuff like that. Well, this is where I want to, and this sauce is not getting me there. And so yeah, I vividly remember her saying that. So I said, okay, well, we need to change something. Like, how do we?
What was on the vision board?
So it's just like travel and stuff like that. It was a lot of work, and the idea again was like it would be passive eventually. That would be in Thailand, and then we'd have a call from a distributor and say we need 3 pallets of sauce, and then we call the manufacturer, and then they say make 3 pallets of sauce. Yeah. And then we send the money or something like that. So that was not happening. So everything was sold. A lot by in-store demos, by any kind of food shows. You saw
Which
some pictures.
Isn't too different from the farmer's market route.
Exactly.
Seems like,
yeah, exactly.
right?
Except it's less frequent, so you're less in a routine. But there was a bunch of these food shows, and we had to do some. You saw some pictures also. Yeah. We can maybe share that with them. But
so then. That's actually quite a wise decision, because I feel like a lot of people get tied to or emotionally attached to what they think will get them to their goals, rather than being attached to the goal itself and just being malleable in terms of what will take you there.
Yeah.
So it's a tough call, but it's an important decision to make.
Yeah, exactly. And so when we looked at where we were at one point, we said, okay, how can what are some ideas to kind of get the sales? Like, what are the issues? Yeah. What are the problems? Why are the sales not selling on their own? All that. We had all kinds of different ideas that would have required additional investments, and that's when we said, okay, well, let's just hit the pause button here. Like, let's refresh, and then see what we want to do here. And so basically we basically stopped the company and stopped the production at that point.
So after 5 years of having this company, it was at the peak of its success, a year before you shut it down, going through this entire process. It was a big chunk of your life and your time. What did you learn from the entire thing?
So a lot of people, when they're in that situation, they feel like, oh, I shouldn't be giving up. Like, I don't want to be, I forget what the term is, but
throwing in the towel or giving up on myself,
So, but Lynn and I, we sat down. Lynn was telling me, I'm looking at my vision board, and this sauce is not getting me there. So what are some of the options? And we looked at all kinds of different options, and all these options required additional funds being invested in there. We didn't know what the results would be.
Right.
So we at that point we basically hit the pause button and said, okay, well, let's just stop it and move on to something else. So sometimes it's. After Lynn has been working at it for like 5 years solid and working many hours. I was working kind of back in the evenings and weekends like I normally do. And then, it was a lot of effort. It was a great ride, but it was not getting us to where we wanted to be.
And so looking back, you don't regret it? No.
In my mind, there's still an opportunity for us to do it, like if Trader Joe's call us, and then there's still opportunities. There's still things like that. And at one point, I was also looking for a CEO to take over the company and get it started, get some funding and stuff like that. So that's another possibility. So to me, it's an asset that we have in our
portfolio,
that
entrepreneurship and portfolio.
We could pull out, we could do something with it in the future.
Well, speaking of using it like in that sense, did that help you with your future businesses that you ended up starting?
It's not directly, but what you learn is how to start a business.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing. I hadn't done anything like this before. I was in high tech. I had done other kind of businesses. Lynn had to run a grocery store, and there's nothing like that. And it was learning it and learning how it works and stuff like that.
What do you think was like the biggest skill that you got out of that whole process? I
think the biggest skill, and I think where a lot of people get kind of stuck on, is when and you heard me talk about passion, you know. So when you have your passion, you're passionate about something, it's hard to do a business about it. So because even if you're in the food business and you're passionate about food, it's a business in the end. So you have to really think about that, and you have to run it like a business.
Yeah.
We also mentored a whole bunch of a couple of other people about their food business, and they were passionate about it and all of that, but they spent so much time in packaging and making it beautiful
details,
and all that it was overpriced because of the packaging and all that kind of stuff.
Because of all the love and passion that went into it.
Exactly, right? So then, but you're passionate about it, but if you're so passionate and you spend so much time here, then the consumer is not going to get to enjoy it. You have to find the right balance.
That's so interesting. It's almost like either the passion overpowers and kills the business of it, or the business will kill your passion.
Yes, exactly.
And make you almost like resentful towards your passion.
Exactly.
Interesting. So it's kind of like, don't shit where you eat.
Yeah. Whoa. Cut.
So learning of today, do not shit where you eat. You will get sick. Speaking of that, what would be your advice to somebody who either has a hobby or a passion or a way of earning money, wanting to scale it? What would your advice be?
So I think the number one is that you really want to put all your numbers. I'm a numbers person, so I really plan.
For reference, he was an actuary for many, many years.
So I'd like to plan, but if you're not too much into numbers, you want to plan everything. What's the strategy here and all, and what's your exit strategy? What's your long-term vision for that for your company? And make sure that you kind of get started on the right track.
Kind of how you had the vision that you didn't want your business to be reliant on you.
Yes.
You wanted to have freedom. That was your vision, was the big picture.
Yeah.
And it helped you inform your decisions
That's
along the way.
And if I knew that if I was going to the farmer's market business, then I would be cooking for the rest of my life.
Right.
And then so that's why I wanted to have someone else that manufactures it.
Okay, so having the vision.
Yeah.
Having
the vision, plan it out, and then you line everything else towards it. It may be at a small scale, but at least you're lined up in the right direction.
Correct.
Right. Especially in the food business, it's very hard to change co-packers manufacturer. It's pretty interesting to see, but we had I sent like a product of our finished product to a co-packer with the recipe.
Okay.
And I don't know what they read, but it had nothing to do with the sauce that I had in my hand. It didn't look like it didn't taste like it, but what they sent me was like, I thought it was the wrong address.
You're like, whose sauce is this?
The wrong address, wrong product, I don't know, right address, wrong product.
And so having that vision and that foresight will just help you make those decisions better.
Yes.
Currently.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing your story.
My pleasure.
And we will see you guys in another video about Eric's entrepreneurial adventures.
Yay.